This week we're making 4 elegant appetizers from puff pastry that look like they came from a caterer, but cost less than $20 to make. We're using puff pastry today. One of these bags costs about $4.99 and you can get a couple of these. That's all we're gonna need for these 48 appetizers that we're making. And we're gonna use a couple of other simple ingredients, many things that you probably already have in the kitchen, and those cost about $10. So all in, we're spending about $20 to make 48 gorgeous appetizers. It does not get any better than that. Let's start by making these spinach artichoke tartlets that are definitely gonna impress your friends. Start by preheating the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and lightly grease a mini muffin tin. Your puff pastry might have come frozen in the roll. It's not. If it is frozen, you'll want to let it thaw according to the package instructions. No matter what, get it right out of the refrigerator, and you're going to work with this cold. It rises so much better that way. Take your first sheet of pastry and gently roll it out just to smooth the seams and get it a little thinner. Then cut it into 4 strips and 4 strips the other way. We're just going to take a fork and poke some holes in the dough. This is called docking. You don't want the dough to balloon up a lot while it cooks, so this allows some of the steam to escape and it'll prevent that. We're going to make a quick egg wash. It's just an egg and some water whisked up together. And spread that on the whole sheet. Now you can press those squares into the tin. Let's mix up the spinach artichoke filling now. Grab a bowl. You need 1 cup of fresh spinach, 1/4 of a cup of artichoke hearts, 1/4 of a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, 1/4 of a cup of mayo, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Let's get that nice and mixed up. Then we're going to fill the cups all the way to the top. Bake that for about 15 minutes until the tops are golden and the pastry is cooked through. And by the way, you can get all the ingredients for this recipe and all the others down in the description so you won't miss a thing. And you can also find these on our website, Food Lover's Kitchen, where we have tons of other recipes for you. I am so excited to eat these. Look at how crispy and delicious they got. I have not met anyone who doesn't love this dip, so this is gonna be a perfect addition to our party appetizer spread. But don't stop there, we've got 3 more to go. Our next appetizer is a fennel sausage pinwheel. These ones are incredible. They smell amazing and they're finger food. So easy to pick up and eat while you're mingling. Start by browning the sausage. When it's almost done, add some fennel seeds. If you don't have any, that's fine. You can add oregano or rosemary instead, or some red pepper flakes if you want. Once it's done, take it off the heat and let it cool completely. The sausage has completely cooled, and I'm just gonna break it up a little bit more with my hands because I wasn't able to get it super crumbled. You want it in kind of small pieces. Now I'm gonna add that cooled sausage into the cream cheese, along with some shredded cheese. Use whatever kind you like. You might also put some salt and pepper in there for extra flavor. Now let's roll out our second puff pastry, just a little bit flatter than the last one. We want a little bit more surface area. Spread on the sausage mixture going edge to edge, but don't put it on too thick or it'll leak out and make the pastry soggy. Starting from the long end, roll the pastry up tightly like a jelly roll. Keep it firm. If you roll it loosely, it's gonna fall apart in the oven. Here's the trick that keeps the whole thing from squishing when you try to cut it. Roll it up in some plastic wrap and then we're gonna put it in the freezer for about 10 minutes. That's gonna keep the insides from mushing out when you cut it. If you try to cut puff pastry when it's warm, it'll be ovals, not circles. It's firmed up now, so I'm gonna cut this log into rounds using a serrated knife to saw, don't press down, into about 1/2 inch rounds. Place them flat on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Then we can brush the tops with that remaining egg wash. All right, we're gonna bake these for 15 to 18 minutes at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're looking for a nice dark brown color. If they're still pale on the underside, they aren't quite done yet. These can be served hot or at room temperature. Believe me, I've tried them both ways and they're great no matter what. The best part about these is you can make them ahead, slice them up, and freeze them. Then you can just get them out and bake them whenever you need them. So now we have 24 beautiful appetizers, but we're only halfway there. Let's dig into one of my favorites. Next up is puff pastry pizzas. These are a great addition to a party spread because everybody loves pizza. Again, roll out the dough just a little bit to get it a little thinner. Then cut it into 4 strips and down the middle. This is gonna give you 8 rectangles. The second sheet, I'm just gonna use about half of it. so that you'll have a total of 12 pizzas. Of course, use as much as you need for your own situation. Okay, the biggest problem is just trying to find enough baking sheets to put all these things on. I've got this one, it's a little bit small, so I'm just gonna put 5 on here and then we'll just do the next batch later. Using the tines of a fork, score a 1/4 inch border around the edge of each of the pieces. Then poke holes all over with the fork. Then brush it all over with the egg wash. You're getting the hang of it now. We're gonna par bake the dough just for a little bit so that it can puff up before we dress it. So this is gonna go in the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes. Now we're ready for the toppings. You can do whatever toppings you like. Get creative or keep it simple. My favorite is a little pizza sauce, a slice of fresh mozzarella, and a few cherry tomatoes. Do them all the same or do them all different. Once you've got them all dressed up, bake them again for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna put on some fresh basil. That's a perfect little pizza. Now on to dessert. Palmiers are a classic French dessert that's incredibly simple to make. It's just 2 ingredients, puff pastry and sugar. We're starting with 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. Sprinkle it over the top of the dough and use a rolling pin to press it in. Then flip over the dough and do the same on the other side. Cut a tiny slit in the center of the square. This is just so that you know where the center is because we're gonna roll up both sides to meet in the middle. Wrap the log and put it in the refrigerator. This isn't gonna stay in the fridge for long, but we do need to preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then line a baking sheet with parchment paper so we're ready to go when we pull that out. Grab the log out of the fridge and we're gonna cut this into 3/8 inch slices. It should be easier to work with now that it's cold. Arrange the slices on a baking sheet and then sprinkle the last 1/3 of the sugar on top of each of the slices. First, we're just gonna cook these for 8 minutes. They are gonna puff and expand, so we'll check on them just to make sure they're okay. Then you can remove them from the oven and flip them over. If any of them have come loose, you can reform them if necessary. And if you have any sugar remaining, sprinkle that on the top. Then continue baking for 8 more minutes until they're golden brown. If you've done it right, the sugar caramelizes on the top of the cookie and makes this lovely, crunchy little piece of goodness for very low effort. This is one of my favorite ways to use up scraps. Now look at that, we've got plenty of food to feed a crowd and all for under $20. This is definitely the way to go rather than spending 3 times as much on pre-made appetizers. We don't just rely on puff pastry for our parties. Just last week we made a huge spread of appetizers with a $5 bag of potatoes. Check that video out here.